All right, well, Kufar Akbar, everybody, welcome to a Monday edition of the Crossing the Custom Discussion Group. We are a YouTube live streamed show dedicated to rightly dividing the truth between Christianity and Islam. We're here every Monday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Mountain Time. I don't even know what is Mountain Time. What is the West Coast time right now? Is that like 3 o'clock? Am I right on that, Sharon?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. Okay. You're only an hour behind. That's cool. Okay, so today we are going to. Let me just say one thing. I was on Lloyd's show last week twice, talking about Mecca. So if you ever want to jump over to Lloyd's show and take a look and see what was said there, feel free to go ahead. I appreciate him having me on there. I've had a bunch of people email me asking for those for the slideshow on that, and I don't have a problem sending it to you. It only takes me 2 seconds to click and send it off to you. So if you want a copy of that slideshow, just go ahead and email me at Eric Theckafer, Eric the Capper. If you look at my name here, just take out that space between the C and the T, and then put at gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to send one of those, a copy of that your way. Okay, so today, what are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about three things. Two things for sure. I'm not sure if we're going to get to the third thing because, well, I thought we were going to talk about Britain, England, and I had sent an email to our friend, what was that called? Patriotic Christian over in England, and I evidently had the wrong email. So I emailed Ed back, or I sent a Skype message to Ed asking for the right email. And evidently I had written it down wrong in the correspondence with Nico today. He said, no, you got the wrong email. You're supposed to have a 3 in there instead of whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, so I'll send the guy an email tonight, and maybe we can get him on the show next week and discuss what's going on over in England in a little more depth. If not, maybe I can send our friend Dominic a message and get him on here. But I understand over there right now it is what, 11? Is it 11 o'clock? They're 6 hours ahead of us. Am I right on that? It's 6 hours ahead of Central Standard Time.
Yeah, it's pretty late for them right now. It's pretty late for them.
Okay, so we're gonna look at two things. We're gonna look at a video that Andrew Tate made, and it, sometimes when you watch a video, it just rubs you the wrong way. And this is what this video did. I mean, it just really, his snarky little attitude, and of all the people in the world that should not have a position to mock somebody else's religion, it should be that guy. But he chooses to do this. So what we're going to do is, it's only a 3-minute video, so we're going to show parts of it, going to break it down a little bit and talk about what he does in this video. And then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the new vice presidential nominee, Tim AWALZ. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, and why there's been such a big blow up about his military service. And I'm going to explain to you why so many people are angry with him. If you've never been in the military before, there are a lot of, I don't want to say petty little things that you just don't do. Here's a good example. If you're in the Army, think about this. If you're in the Army, somebody's got a hot mic call. I'm going to mute you. How do I mute you? Can you mute yourself? I don't figure out how to mute you. There we go. Thank you. Okay. When you're in the Army, you do not put your hands in your pockets. Did you guys know this? You don't walk around with your hands in your pocket.
I did not know that. Well, I don't do that normally anyway. But why wouldn't you do that? Like, wait, winter coat pockets? Or like pants pockets? Because when it's cold, I'm putting my hands in my pockets.
Yeah, and there's some other things that you do. You don't take your cover off outside, but you do inside. Just stuff like that. Even the women have that rule.
absolutely right. It's just common courtesies, or what do they call it? Something in courtesies. What do they call that? Customs and courtesies. There you go. Customs and courtesies. It's just one of those things you don't do. You don't put your hands in your pocket. And I'm thinking, well, if you don't put your hands in your pockets, why do they issue you uniforms with pockets in them to begin with? Well, you can put things in your pockets. You just don't put your hands in there. And the same thing is, and only as a soldier, only soldiers, Marines, or people in the military, well, the Air Force, they walk around with their hands in the pockets all the time. So I'm not going there. But anyway, in the Army itself, you just do not do that. So we're going to be looking at some of the things that he has said and done. These are just rules that you just do not cross these lines, and he's crossed every single one of them. And this is why people are so mad at him. And I know his reply is, well, he misspoke. No. You do not make those kinds of mistakes, and he has on several occasions, and we're going to talk about that in detail as we go along. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our pagan friend Andrew Tate, and a little video he made with him and his homies that dealt with him and his friends going to a church on Easter evening. Now, it begins with him and his homies sitting and kicking it here in his pad, him smoking on a stogie. And you look at what's laying around kind of gives you a good idea of what type of human being you're dealing with here. You notice in the back here, there's a video game. And that's like the first thing I noticed. He's got a video game there. But then, okay, these grown men, I count 1, 2, 3 game controllers. So these guys sit around all day. I don't even know what this is here in the background. That looks like a big giant kitty of some sort. I'd hate to think what they do to that poor thing. But anyway, you got kind of, three game controllers. All three of these guys are in their mid to late 20s, early 30s. And when you sit around all day playing video games, dude, you got to do something with your life. So what did these guys do? Well, they decided that they're going to go out and they're going to crash a church's celebration of the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So let's go ahead and watch the first 30 seconds of this, and then we'll stop it and make what is this? I don't know. Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Can you guys hear that? Oh.
I heard some.
Of course.
It's not moving, or I don't hear any. Oh, there's moving.
Better than the boxing.
So we are going to church.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
All right, let me back it up. Here we go.
Alex, isn't it Easter Sunday?
Yes, of course. Have you ever been to Romania Easter?
No.
It's better than the boxing.
So we are going to church.
Well, I'm going.
So it's midnight and we're going to worship Jesus.
Yeah.
Is that like the whole community?
The whole community. Everyone in this country will go.
So we're a bunch of guys getting in their supercars on a mission to go and praise Jesus.
Basically, yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Let's go. Amen.
Okay, so here you have 4 grown men going down into their bat garage to get out all these supercars. They race over to this church where they're going to have a worship service on Easter. It's not Easter. I think it's Easter Sunday. It's Easter Sunday, and it's during the evening. And, that raises a lot of questions. What's the purpose of doing this? Hold on, I got to do something here. I went to print a bunch of stuff and I ran out of paper, so I have to reload my paper. So if you guys can discuss whatever amongst yourselves, maybe about 30 seconds. Hold on.
You guys know he's supposedly a Muslim, right? So this actually caused quite the controversy in the dawah team, or the dawah gang wars that we're seeing crapping out on the YouTubes, where even Ali Dawah has thrown Andrew Tate under the bus. It's like, nope, you cannot worship Jesus. And not only that, but Andrew Tate has also come out in favor. Actually, he supports the British rioters getting rid of So yeah, poor Andrew Tate. The Muslims are pretty much throwing him under the bus, dude. Especially what is his name? Muhammad Hijab, Mimi, or Mojab, whatever we're calling him. He actually wrote a scathing Twitter reply, basically fearing him, saying, "Come back, brother, come back. You do not throw your brothers under the bus." Maybe I'll find that. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, the Dawah wars, dude. It's happening. It's real. They're all getting thrown under the bus. Anyway.
Thank you, Rad. And okay, so let me make sure we get this right. We understand that Andrew Tate is a Muslim. He converted to Islam. Who remembers why he converted to Islam?
Yep.
Does anybody remember this?
I'm sure it had something to do with 9-year-old girls. I don't know.
That's exactly right. It had to do with the treatment of women, or the ability to treat women a certain way. And Andy got thrown into jail in an Eastern European country. I should have researched this before the show, but I'm gonna type this in. Andrew Tate jailed for what? Romania. There we go. Romania. He was charged with human trafficking, rape, and forming a criminal gang to sexually exploit women. So here you have Andrew Tate, and this guy is worth millions of dollars. This guy was a professional MMA fighter or something, if I'm not mistaken. Supposed to be really good in his day, and he's a big dude. I mean, if you look at him, he's like, I don't know, 6 foot, 6'1" or whatever. He's a big dude, tough dude. I'm sure he is. But he's engaged in sex trafficking and exploitation of women. So this gives you a little idea of who this guy is and what type of person this is, and who's out mocking our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. It's this guy. Romania. Yeah, thank you, Nico. Yeah, he's out trying to get houris. Or maybe that's what he was after. Who knows? It's become very more popular since his arrest. What's the website? You're saying here there's a website or something. He's been a website, by the way, has become more and more popular since his arrest. I don't know which website it is, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and Rad, your camera's on for some reason. I'm not sure what happened there. Yepper. All right, so let's do this here. Let's jump back and see what they do. We're gonna play this for about a minute, I think.
I got the keys to the kingdom. Ain't nobody stopping me now. I'm taking back all of my freedom, cause I know there's only one crown. And you know that I am a fighter, a warrior washed in the blood. Cause I got something to believe.
Okay, now one thing I want you guys to notice is we look at, who did we lose here? Did we lost Rad? Did we lose Rad or something? What I want you to be looking for in the cars to see if there's any booster seats for his girlfriends in here. I didn't see any as they're in there, but there may, maybe he has them in the trunk or something for the girls he dated.
When I'm 40 days in the flood, I got the keys to the kingdom. Ain't nobody stopping me now. I'm taking back all of my freedom, cause I know there's only one. I got the keys to the
Okay, so these guys, they go driving down the road. It's I don't even know where they're at. Maybe they're in Romania at this time. But again, if y'all want to go to this website here and check this out, that's fine. But I did not see any booster seats visible, or even child seats. What do you call them? Them seats that you put kids in. The not child seats. They call them Somebody help me out.
Car seat.
Car seat.
So,
Wait. Car seat. I have my granddaughter. I got to put my granddaughter. She's 2 years old. In a car seat. But I didn't see any car seats in there. In those supercars that they have. Those are pretty nice cars too. But then again, I've never had this great affection or desire to go out, because you get a lot of guys that get older, they want to go out and they want to relive their youth, so they go out and they buy a Corvette, or they buy some super souped up sports car. And I get it. Some people want to have that thrill of going down the road at Mach 50 or getting it. That's cool, as long as you're not breaking any laws. But these guys are making a big deal out of it, and that's fine. It's just that I would say that if you're going to have your girlfriend in there, make sure she's in a booster seat so you don't get charged with that. Okay, let's do this.
Nothing more inspirational than saddling up with your boys in a bunch of supercars and taking time out your day to go and praise the Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.
It doesn't get better than that, does it, Bailey?
It doesn't.
Okay, so here we got Andy. He's going out there. He's saying, we're going to go with my boys, my posse here. We're going out to this church and we're going to go praise the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, you notice how he's just using this mocking tone, and this is what got my gander up. Okay, now he's talking about he's mocking his mate Jesus Christ. Listen to what the goober says here.
Jesus is my mate.
Mine too. Andrew, you're at church with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing.
See, us Christians and Muslims, we can unite for love for Jesus Christ.
That is actually true.
I know it's true. So Jesus is my mate. So you're right. This whole thing is about my mate. All of this is happening for my mate. He's my mate. He's not yours. He doesn't like you. He likes me and Bailey, and you're not loved. You're the only human to not be loved by Jesus.
For those that don't know, it's Easter.
Okay, so he's saying that Jesus is my mate, and what he's doing is he's mocking what Jesus Christ did for us. I get it. Okay. If you're a Muslim, this is probably what you're going to do. You're going
he's actually going against what Muslims try to claim, that they honor and respect Jesus.
Right. Yeah, you're right. This is true. They say that we're supposed to honor and all the prophets. Well, he could probably get away with this, because all he has to do is just say something on the lines that, I'm just mocking the Christian understanding of Jesus. I'm not mocking the real Jesus, which is what the Jesus that, Muhammad portrayed or whatever.
Where is he?
And they're sucking on a stogie.
Where is he?
I don't know where he's. He's in. I looked at the signage, and the signage. I think he's in Romania. To be honest, I can't remember the sign.
It depends on like what level of jihad they're in. I would guess, because if they're like, for example, the UK, they're getting more advanced in their level of jihad. So,
look at that.
For those that don't know,
I look at that sign.
By Jesus, not be loved by me and Bailey. So Jesus is my mate. Jesus is my mate. So he likes me and Bailey, and you're not loved. Not be loved by Jesus.
Okay, I can't. I tried to. I did go in and I punched in that those signs, and it was golly, I can't remember which language it was, but it was the European. It was the European. They're in a European city. I do know that. I just can't remember which country it is. It's not England, or at least that's not according to the signs that were in the background. It seems like it was Romania. I'm willing to be wrong on that. I'm wrong on a lot of things, but anyway, all right. So he's mocking Jesus, saying he's my mate.
For those that don't know, it's Easter Sunday, and we're at church.
It's midnight, and we're gonna light a candle.
I can't wait.
Me neither.
What's your brother doing?
Smoking by the side of the road. aggressively staring at people smaller than him. What else does he ever do?
He's literally just standing there.
Standing there as a 6'4", 108-kilo man smoking cigarettes, giving everyone bad looks. Yeah.
You told him Jesus didn't love him, and now he's pouting.
No, Jesus doesn't. Let's be honest. Have you ever heard Tristan? Have you ever heard Jesus say to you, "I love Tristan"?
Okay, this is why Andrew Tate. I'm assuming, I have to assume that he's taken too many blows to the head. Either that or he can't read. I don't know. If you ever read the Bible, I went in and I looked up. There's a long litany of verses that apply here. Of course, John 3:16. You idiot. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever should believe. That for God so loved. All right. And then if you want to get down to the specifics, you go to John 15:12, when he gives this commandment. This is my commandment. Where are they going in my Jeep? My granddaughter, she's learning how to drive. Here it says, did Jesus? Okay, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. So yes, Andy, Jesus did say that. Gosh, this guy drives me nuts. And then he goes on in his mocking tone. Him and his posse do. Let's just watch the rest of this. Oops, wrong click. I'm going on the wrong screen.
I didn't read that in the Bible.
Right? Isn't there an Andrew in the Bible?
There is.
Is there a Tristan?
Not that I know of.
Și de se va auzi aceasta la dregători, noi îl vom îndupleca.
Alex, isn't it?
Okay, so let's just get that off the screen. I'm done with that. We could do a lot of things that if we wanted to mock Islam. Does anybody have any ideas? I'm going to give you a couple minutes to think about it. Maybe type it into chat and tell me what you would do to mock Islam. I wrote down, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things that you could do to mock Islam. Let me pull this one over here that way. Whoops, that's not it. Where did it go? Here we are. That's the one I wanted over there. So when we get ready, I'll go ahead and play that Hamajama. If we wanted to mock Islam, I was actually thinking about going out and grabbing a rock and kissing it. Would that be mocking Islam? I think it would. If I wanted to mock Islam, I could actually set that rock down and walk around it 7 times. Say, this is my God. This is a holy rite. This is something that I have to do because Muhammad commanded me to. I could take that same rock and set it down and bow down to it 5 different times a day, speaking to it in a language that I don't have any clue of what it means, but I'm speaking a foreign language, so it must be, religious in a way. We could do that, could we not? Bismillah. Yeah. How about if we all got together and we started running in between 2 rocks, a total of 1.96 miles, 7 times? Would that be a mockery? If I set a rock up, 2 rocks up, and started running in between?
That would actually go right over their heads.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't understand that. If let's say I would go out and make a marriage proposition to my daughter-in-law, how about that, Andrew? Oh, not just making marriage proposition. No. Cause the divorce from my adopted son, and then make a marriage proposition, marry her, and then consummate that marriage. How about we do that, Andy? How about going out and raping some slave girls or engaging in human trafficking of women, Andy? I know you're probably just following the Sunnah of your profit. But yeah, that's exactly what you're doing, you scumbag. How about torturing people for their money? Could we do that? Would that be okay? I mean, would that be mocking somebody's religion if we did that? That's right, you probably did that. How about having a vision, getting a vision from God in a dream that I'm supposed to marry some 6-year-old little girl? Would that be mocking your God, Andy? Or reading chapter 65, verse 4, about giving little girls, prepubescent girls, their Ida.
You could do something similar to the Boom Boom Room.
Right.
Muhammad reading Jibril.
Yeah, that's true. That we could, yeah. And you know why when David came up with that idea with the Boom Boom Room, he came up the idea that he had for Islamicize Me. You remember that series, that 30-day series that they ran during Ramadan? He came up with that idea when people started sending him emails about Nabil Qureshi's death and how they were so glad that he suffered and died. And so he goes, oh, okay, so you want to go ahead and mock Nabil and take that road? Okay, I got something for you. And so he comes up with this idea of every day comes up with, one of them was wiping their butt with stones. The other one was drinking some Drano or something and eating these type of
My favorite was him dressing in his wife's red teddy.
Oh yeah, dressing. Yeah, well, that's one of the. Yeah, they had one of them. I don't know if I'd say this and how I would say this politely. Well, this isn't a G-rated show. It's not made for kids. This is where they had where they all got together and they started. They wanted to be friends with one of the people's wives. So in order to do that, she has to breastfeed them. So you'd have to watch it. It's hilarious. It's risky. There's no doubt about that. But it is. We
need the sheep for that, because that sheep actually ate those verses.
Well, that's a hadith. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, the sheep ate it. Okay, so another thing is we could actually show clips of little girls being married off to old scumbags, actually being trafficked in by people like yourself. Let me share my screen here. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, where a little girl, 12 years old, is being forced into marriage with a 65-year-old man. Red sent this to me today. Being forced to sign the marriage contract. Your hair, darling. Don't tempt anybody by doing your hair up. Yeah, that's your religion. You should do the little girl.
That poor kid.
Yeah, you just in the show intro. I'm not sure if it's in there or in anymore or not. I think maybe Connie did take it out, where they have that old man marrying a 9-year-old girl. It used to be in there. I know that in Afghanistan, where the family sold this girl to this man in marriage for I don't know how much it was, but he was over 60 and she was 9. She was 9 years old. There's so many different examples of this happening, and he wants to sit there and mock our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Go on ahead, go right on ahead, because the mockery can be turned over to you 50-fold based on what that person that you call a prophet did during his. These are things that we know about. We don't know the things that we don't know about.
She was 9 years old. She was 9 years old.
Yep, that's exactly what I wanted to use that for.
That wasn't exactly a clever move, mate, was it?
It was a very clever move.
You really think so?
It was the perfect move.
You know, it's people like
Everybody
you.
needs to
Know
know.
it's people
They
like
need
you.
to know.
No.
Aisha
How old was Joseph?
9
How old was
years
Joseph?
old. Say that there is a big problem in Islam. It's written in the Hadith, which all Muslims, all good Muslims believe in the Hadith. And it is written in the Hadith that Prophet Muhammad was 50 or 53 years old when he sexually penetrated Aisha.
Thank you, Rad. I sent him that clip this week and asked him to edit it up and stuff, and he got it done for me. Thank you for doing that. Okay, so that's enough of Andrew Tate. I think we can be done with Andrew Tate for the day. Let's go ahead and talk about our buddy Tim AWALZ. Tim Walz, who's the Democratic nominee for vice president, just was announced this week. He was chosen. I'm not exactly sure why Kamala chose this guy. Does anybody have any idea why she chose this guy? I mean, what type of, normally when you choose a vice president, it's supposed to help you carry a state. And if that would have been the case, why didn't she choose that Shapiro guy from Pennsylvania? Well, I can tell you why she didn't choose that Shapiro guy from Pennsylvania, because she is an anti-Semitic pig. And I know, oh, wait a second, she's married to a Jew. This is true. But that still doesn't get her past her feelings towards the Jewish people and the people of Israel. And trying to get into the presidency, she's going to have to placate, pacify all those jihadi sympathizers up there in Dearbornistan and in Wisconsin. And this is what she's thinking about. That's why she didn't choose Shapiro. So she chooses this guy, Tim Walz from Minnesota, the governor of Minnesota. He's serving on his second term. If I'm wrong on any of these details, go ahead and correct me. And he's gotten himself into quite a bit of hot water over some of his statements that he's made about his military service. And we were talking a little bit about this before the show in the green room, whatever room you want to call it. And I want to point out some things that he has said that you just do not say as a soldier. And we were trying to find an analogy that you would be able to understand that's easy. And one of them is that, did you know that if you're a United States Army soldier, you're not supposed to put your hands in your pockets, in your front pockets, when you're standing around? I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but you're not supposed to do that. That's what's the word I'm looking for? That's against customs and courtesies. A hat. You're not supposed to wear a hat inside of a building, and while you're outside of a building in military uniform, you're supposed to have a cover on your head at all times. And if you don't, you get called out for it. It's a uniform violation. So there's certain little things about the military that most people that have never been in the military really don't know about, that really irk people off that are in the military. And the things that he has done and said really strikes a chord with, especially me. I retired from the Army for 21 years. Or, you don't even have to retire from the Army. You just be in the military and know that these are things that you just don't do. So let me just start with some easy things here first. His rank. He claims that, his biography claims that he was a command sergeant major. A command sergeant major is the highest rank an enlisted soldier can achieve. You go from private to private first class to specialist to sergeant, staff sergeant, first class, master sergeant, and then command sergeant or sergeant major. You have command sergeant major and sergeant major. You have first sergeant and master sergeant at E8 levels, and then so on and so forth and down. Anyway, he achieved the rank of command sergeant major while he was in. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that when you go to retire, you are retired at a certain rank. Example, I retired at the rank of master sergeant. I was never a first sergeant. The CMF, the career management field I was in, did not have positions for first sergeant, so I was a master sergeant. In order for me to retire at that rank, I still have to meet minimum qualifications in order to retire at that rank. Namely, for master sergeant or E8, all you have to do is just fill a time and grade requirement, which means that from the time that you get promoted to that rank, you have to serve 2 years, hold that rank for 2 years. And then when you retire at that rank. The same thing is true with sergeant major. You incur a service remainder requirement, meaning that you have to serve a certain amount of time once you are promoted to that rank. And then if you serve that amount of time, when you retire, that's the rank that you retire at. If you do not serve the minimum retirement or amount of time, or you do not meet the minimum requirements to attain that rank, and in the case of sergeant major, E9, you have to attend the Sergeant Major's Academy at Fort Bliss, Texas, which is 9 months. Now, I'm not exactly sure how they do it in the Guard or the Reserve, but the bottom line was that Timmy did not complete the Sergeant Major's Academy, and he did not complete the time in service or serviceman requirement that is required for him to retire at that rank. So when he says that he retired as a command sergeant major, he's lying. And he knows he's lying. And for him to continue to say it is dishonest, and it's disingenuous, and it only goes to show what a scumbag he is, because people have pointed this out to him before several times, but yet he still keeps telling the same lie. As a matter of fact, I was reading an article today, or maybe it was the day before, where it was still on his website that he is a retired command sergeant major, and he's not. He is a retired Army master or National Guard or Army National Guard master sergeant, because he did not meet the minimum requirements to retire at that rank. That's not saying that he never held that rank, but he didn't meet the requirements to retire at that rank. So there's a big difference. And people in the service know these things. And people in the service, these things are like religious convictions. You just do not bogus up your record. And this is what this guy's done. He's embellished his record. Second thing that he did, he bailed on his unit. And what I mean by bailing on his unit, in 2000, this would have been 2004, his unit was deployed to Italy to augment security for the Vincenza's base up in northern Italy, Vincenza, with the 173rd Infantry Battalion is, Airborne Infantry. They were evidently deployed to Iraq at the time, and so they had to augment the security for the post. So they brought in Kim Walz's unit, was called up in 2004 to go there, and he served. I believe he was the first sergeant while he was over there, and that's cool. But he lies about it, and he conflates it later on. I'm going to get to that. After that, they redeployed back to the States, and as the war progresses, the Army is being pulled even further and further up, I don't want to say apart, but it's strains are being placed on it. They have all kinds of what they call stop loss, where even if you are scheduled to leave the service under your contracted period, they can keep you in the service until a deployment is finished, when we initially deployed in 2003, there's all kinds of people that got stop lost. I mean, people were really ticked off because this is their life. This is the schedule of their life. They had planned to get out of the Army at a certain time, and they were going to either go to college, they were going to start a new career. They wanted to get on with their lives, but war happens. You're in the military, and everybody that is in the military understands this, that if you are deployed or you scheduled deployed, you just got to suck it up and deal with it. Well, Tim, in 2004, after returning from Italy, his unit was again notified that they were going to be scheduled for a subsequent deployment to, I don't know if it was Afghanistan or Iraq. I'm not sure which theater of operations they're going to go to.
It was Iraq. He was supposed to go to Iraq during the surge.
Okay. Well, regardless, they were scheduled to go, and he knew this. He knew that they had been tagged to go. The military was, and this is at the time of David Petraeus's what they call the surge, where they were surging soldiers and keeping them for, instead of doing a 12-month deployment, these guys were doing 15 flipping months in theater. I mean, it was just this incredible strain on the service. And all of these Army Reserve and National Guard units were being called up to augment this. And not only in other military installations throughout the United States, but also in forward deployed units, being assigned to forward deployed units to augment the strengths there. He knew this was going to happen, but he wanted to run for Congress, which is cool. You want to run for Congress, that's cool. But he told, this is in 2005, he told his brigade sergeant major or his senior enlisted sergeant major for the state of Minnesota that he was going to stay on board with his unit, and then he bailed. Now, when you bail on your unit, when your unit knows that you're scheduled for the deployment and it's going to be a year, especially when you're in the National Guard, because I mean, this isn't your job. This isn't your full-time job. You have entire other careers that you got to manage. You have families and responsibilities at home that you have to take care of. And now you're going to be gone for a year. Timmy bailed on all of those soldiers, and they saw it. When you're senior enlisted soldier, when your command sergeant major bails on you, that destroys the continuity and the morale of the unit. And he did it anyway. Why? Because he wanted to run for Congress. He wanted to put himself in front of his soldiers. And you just don't do that.
Question.
Go ahead, Brad.
So, at that level, command sergeant major in the National Guard, they get notice that they're going to deploy. He acknowledges that he's going to deploy, even though he's already filed his papers to run for Congress. He acknowledges he's still going to deploy with his men, right? That type of level, he would be in charge, right, of getting everything together for the deployment, right?
Right.
In charge of equipment's together, all the Humvees with the proper tire pressure, proper maintenance, everything's getting shipped up, packed up, ready to go, right? Maybe that kind of level, making sure everything is in tip-top shape, working order. So there's no fuss, no muss, right? Everybody knows their jobs. They they know where to go, and they get to do it. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Is that right?
Well, his responsibility as the senior enlisted advisor, his responsibility is going to be ensure that all the soldiers are deployment ready, meaning that they have all of their personal affairs in order, which would include something as simple as having a will made up, all of your medical shots and medical stuff is up to date, making sure that all of your administrative records are in order. You are going to make sure that they have in place a solid family care plan, that their families are going to be well taken care of and looked after and checked in on while the unit is deployed forward. You're going to ensure that all of the separate units that are assigned to that National Guard battalion the first sergeants are doing their jobs by doing, because the command sergeant major is not going to know, is not going to have a personal relationship with all the individual soldiers in each unit. His is going to be mainly a supervisor position at the first sergeant level, but his main duty is to ensure that all of those soldiers are taken care of. They've received the training that they're supposed to be have received. They're qualified on all the weapon systems and they're proficient in them that they're going to be deployed with. The vehicles, making sure that they're proficient in that they're licensed properly in all the vehicles that the unit is going to be taken. I'm not sure if by that time units we had pre-positioned vehicles in theater and just started leaving them in the theater by that time. It really doesn't matter, but again, this is his responsibility. And by bailing on these guys, all the confidence that those first sergeants had, all the confidence that those unit leaders and individual soldiers had in their chain of command, he destroyed it. You just don't do that. He put his own personal desires, the highest ranking person put his own personal desires and career in front of his soldiers. You just don't do that.
So he totally screwed over the guy that took over for him. I mean, if you think about it as well. I mean, I would say he goes in, nothing's been done because he's retired. You see what I'm saying? And this guy had to take over with a short, I guess, a month's notice.
I don't know if you could say that he screwed over the guy taking over for him. As a matter of fact, the guy that was the senior enlisted advisor for the state of Minnesota, he gave an interview and said that what he actually did was he did the unit a favor.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because the guy that took over for him, his position was just a super soldier. So, inconsequent, or even though he didn't mean to do it, another guy was able to step into his shoes and fill them, 10 times better than what he could have ever done as a leader. And it's just like I said, you just don't bail on your unit. And one of the things that I often have, I don't want to say an issue with is, when you retire, you have this kind of this like this guilt that, should have I stayed longer? All these guys that work for me, they had to go on subsequent deployments, and I have that guilt sometimes where, should I have stayed longer? Should I have just stuck it out another couple of years and continued to go on these deployments? But this guy obviously has no remorse whatsoever for what he did. So number one, he lied about his rank. Number two, he bailed on his unit. And let me just add something else about this, where a criticism of him has been made about when he retired, or he had X number of years left on his enlistment contract or whatever, and retired in lieu of. And let me just say this: anybody that does 24 years in service to their country, I'm not going to criticize your service at all. That is a heck of a commitment. I mean, that's 2.5 decades of. I mean, you think of what the National Guard has to do. They have a day job, a job that they do outside, and then one weekend a month they have to commit to going to this unit, and then 2 weeks during the summer they have annual training. They have 15 days of annual training a year. So there's a huge commitment that these guys make, and I never want to impugn the service of any of those soldiers, and I'm not impugning his. What I am calling out, though, is number one, his stolen valor for his rank. Number two, how he bailed on his unit. He just completely cast him aside in front of his own personal desires. And let me just say this for people in the National Guard, because he was criticizing, as far as when he was governor, he was supposed to call up the National Guard in order to put down those riots that were in Minnesota or Minneapolis. And his excuse for not doing is, what do you want? A bunch of 19-year-old cooks out there with a gun? And how dare you? I mean, how dare you impugn somebody's service like that? I wasn't a cook, but if somebody said that about me, and if I was a cook and you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, I can't go out and do riot control, or I can't do my job as a National Guard because I'm a cook. Screw you, buddy. How dare you say something like that? But with that said, people that go into the National Guard, normally, this is my experience, they're not doing it for the love of country. Some people do, and I get that. A lot of people, when they stay in the military, that's what, they're able to tap into that patriotic nerve in their body, and that's one of the reasons why they stay. But the initial reason why people go into the military is normally a selfish reason. In the National Guard, there are very generous GI Bill benefits, or there were, at least when I was young, where a lot of your college tuition, if not all of it, would be paid for if you served in the National Guard for 4 or 6 or whatever many years it is. And if you're only going, if you only go to basic training and your military occupational special training, and then after you get done with that, you just have to go 2 or 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks during the summer. That's a heck of a deal, especially when we're talking about how much college costs. So a lot of people, when they go into the military, they go in for, or to go into for the job training. For example, when I went in the Army, I wanted to be a policeman. That was my goal when I graduated high school. So I thought, okay, I'll go in the Army as a military policeman, get the training, get the experience, and then at the same time, I'll get college money to go. They had the VEAP, the Veterans Educational Assistance Program at the time. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was money to go. I mean, it was something. It was more than doesn't matter. And so when I'm in basic training, those soldiers or those Marines over in Lebanon are getting picked off like on a daily basis. This is 1983. This is fall of 1983, October 1983. And then they had that bombing where it brought down that entire apartment complex down on top of all these soldiers. That guy drove that truck in there and set it off and killed 240 of them in one day. And I'm just like, holy crap. And our drill sergeants, they called us in that morning and said, we're going to war, guys. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Hold on. Guys. You don't understand. I came in to be an MP. I didn't, I didn't come in to go to war. So when you come into the military, your motivations are probably a little bit different. And I ended up staying. And it wasn't just because I wanted to be an MP. It was because, I enjoyed what I did. And I was fairly good.
At least those people that go in, and even if it's for, college money, at least they're working for it. Now look what they're doing. All they got to do is scream out in the streets and, we want it for free, and that's what Walz is behind too. He's behind the freebies like that. Yeah,
you're exactly right. Those people that get, they're saying that, Biden's pushing this, I'm going to pay off your student loans. So like, look, dude, those recruiting stations, the military does that. If you go into the Army for 3-4 years, or any branch of the military now, I think, you get the GI Bill, the New Montgomery GI Bill, or whatever it's called. And it pays for everything. And you get a stipend every month to go to college, like $800 or something like that. Pays for all your books, all your lab fees. It's like getting a full ride scholarship. But you have to go in the military. Now these guys, you're absolutely right, Sharon. These guys want, the taxpayers to bail them out because they can't get jobs now to pay off their college loans. So they could, there's a way to do that. If you go into the military, they'll pay off your college.
I read where he's worth several million. I mean, a lot of million, right? His daughter had a college loan and she got free money instead of him paying it off if she didn't want to pay it. I really don't have any respect for that guy.
Yeah, this last thing that I'm going to say is really what, forgive me for saying, just really pisses me off. This last thing that he did, and this is the stolen valor thing. he lied about his service in combat, and he did this during a campaign stop. I don't know if it was a campaign stop or was he speaking publicly as a congressman. But the point that he was trying to make is that there needs to be an assault weapons ban. And so he's pushing this idea that, you know, assault weapons are weapons of war. And he makes that statement. I'm sure all of you that watch this show know that the statement that he made, he's saying, well, people don't need to have guns like the guns I carried in combat out on the streets. Now, you don't make that kind of mistake. You do not make that kind of mistake. And he did. And actually, it wasn't a mistake. This was a lie that he made. This is a bold-faced lie, and he knew it. And it's the same thing with his, the thing with Bagram Air Base, where he said that he was in Bagram. Well, hold on a second. Let me see here. I have, he's talking, here's one where he's talking about how he has PTSD. This is a good one. Let me play this one. This tells you how disingenuous and dishonest this piece of garbage is. Let me go ahead and play this. Present, share screen. Here we go. Bada bing, bada boom. Notice he uses the inclusive language here. We. Oops, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Did I cut that out? I'm sorry. He uses
it was silent. We couldn't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear it? Okay, let me try it again. Here we go. Can you hear that?
Still muted.
Okay. Okay, let's let's stop sharing screen. How do I do this again? I've done this before. Okay, and
is there closed captions on that video?
It has, yeah, I just turned the closed captioning on. Let's see here. Here we go. All right, let's try this. Can you hear that?
Still muted.
Okay, let's what am I not doing correctly here? Let's share screen. Okay, maybe this is it. Okay, close captioning.
And both of you with your...
Can you hear that?
Yep.
Okay, let me put the closed caption up. Here we go. All right.
Keen understanding of how this works, especially from National Guard families. I can tell you this, having been one of those that came back, we were in support of OEF, but being...
Okay, notice how he conflates, I came back in support of OEF. He doesn't say that he was in Vincenza, Italy. He says we redeployed, and when we came back, notice what he says here.
Sitting in there with OIF veterans, when we came back, they showed us the horse whisperer and told us to be nice when we went home. And that was the extent of it. That was in 2004. Now, I'm proud to...
Okay, so in other words, he's trying to say that when they redeployed back, we commanders had to be nice about people who suffered from PTSD. People did not get PTSD from serving in Vincenza. Well, I don't know. I guess there's some impactful things that can happen, but not like combat. So notice he conflates this to make himself look like he's been there, done that, and he's a bag of chips. And he's not. He's a piece of garbage.
say that because of the people sitting in here and people who came before me things have changed over the last 4 years. They have not changed enough. But Mr. Kennedy is following and moving something forward that the late senator from Minnesota, Senator Wellstone, advocated so clearly: mental health parity, and this issue of destigmatizing mental health, of understanding. And I, being in there and knowing as a first sergeant, know exactly what you're saying. And
no, you don't. No, you don't, Tim. You're lying through your teeth. You are lying through your teeth because you were never a first sergeant in a forward deployed unit in a combat zone. Not the type of PTSD that these people whose loved ones are suffering from. And I would go to, and this is what really, when you start monkeying around this, you start monkeying around with this, saying that, well, I had to deal with people coming back with PTSD because of the place that we were in. I was the first sergeant, and you're lying about it. You want to strangle this guy because you know he's lying about it, because those people that he's talking about, he's trying to include and make himself inclusive in that group of those soldiers who do suffer from these problems associated with PTSD. And he's trying to include himself in this. And again, this is what a scumbag politician does. And this is the guy that wants to be the vice president of the United States. I don't think so. I don't see how anybody could ever, in good conscience, vote for this scumbag. Any remarks on this guy so far?
Nothing good. I'm going to keep quiet.
I've already said everything I thought about him.
Yeah, this, it just burns my hide every time I think about this. I'm trying to go through this article. I don't think the mayor knew what he was asking the National Guard. Mayor said, "I request National." Okay, I'm trying to. Oh, here it is. Here's the one that he besmirches the cooks. I don't know if you guys can. Let me put this up here. This one again, I'll probably have to. Okay.
The mayor knew what he was asking for. He wanted the National Guard, and what does that mean? I think to the
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
mayor, yes, I think it's a perception. I'm certainly not questioning that. I think the mayor said, I request the National Guard. Phew, I'm out. This is great. We're going to have massively trained troops. No, you're going to have 19-year-olds who are cooks.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the guy who's vice president.
That's all that's in the national Minnesota National Guard is just cooks, 19-year-old cooks.
No, no. National Guard, folks. If you don't, okay, the National Guard.
I'm mocking him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's all he thought his own National Guard is governor, that they were just a bunch of 19-year-old cooks, even though he served in it for 25 years.
Yeah. And that calls into question. So wouldn't you yourself, if you were 19 years old, you're fresh out of basic training, you're fresh out of AIT or whatever your MOS is, whether you're a cook, you're an MP, or you are a finance guy or whatever, take your pick. Say that you would not be qualified or have the ability to serve in a capacity like that to defend people, their property, what the National Guard would have been called in to do, restore order. It's just a slap in their face. That's all it is. It's just a slap in their face. What he's trying to do is he's trying to say, look, I didn't want to put in National Guard people because they're not like real Army troops, and they're not capable of doing the things that the real Army professionals are capable of doing, like bringing in like an infantry unit from the 101st or 10th Mountain Division or 82nd. Take your pick. No. These would just be like cooks straight out of high school and not know what to do. Screw you, buddy. Just screw you. What the heck do you think that we have National Guard units for to begin with? To sit there and besmirch somebody's service like that? And you're the commander-in-chief of the National Guard units for that state, and you're going to make a statement like that about your own soldiers? What the heck are you doing? I mean, what can you demoralize the morale in those units any more than what you have by making statements like that? How dare you? I'm certain.
You know, I can actually hear. I have or had the National Guard friends, and they would be, you know, ready to go smack on this guy for saying such.
Yeah, it's unacceptable to say something like that. I mean, if I was, you know, if I was the, I don't know, if I was one of the commander in one of those units, and the governor of the state would come out and said something about that, about my unit, about my soldiers. Come on, I would, you know, it would. This is game on. You don't do that. You don't insult my soldiers like that and think that you can get away with it because you're the governor and you are a retired command sergeant major who didn't, you know, so when people have spoken out in Minnesota about this guy's service, his stolen valor, I can see why they would be ticked off about this guy and what he has said. When you say that you have served in a combat zone and you haven't, or even imply that you have served in a combat zone and you haven't, that's just bad business, especially in the military. You know, I remember going to the commissary a number of years ago, which is the grocery store up on the installation that I'm nearby here. And there was a guy that was carrying out groceries. People can volunteer. They can go to the commissary, sign up, and they can carry out groceries for people, bag them and carry them out. And when they carry them out, you're expected to tip them, give them, you know, $5. I usually give them $5, especially, you know, if it's a whole cart full. Excuse me, if it's a whole cart full of food. Well, I had this one joker come out, and on the back of my car, I have this license plate. If you've gotten a Bronze Star, you can get a license plate that says Bronze Star, and for whatever it's meritorious service or valor, to differentiate it. And this guy says that, oh, I was recommended for a Bronze Star when I was, but I wasn't in the Army. I was with one of those alphabet soup agencies, and we jumped into Iraq, and we did this. And he starts talking about, you know, how he was this like super spy hero or whatever. And here he's carrying out groceries to my car. And when people say stuff like that, you want to be.
There's something wrong with it.
There is, yeah. And I didn't, you know, I was just kind of so shocked that he would say this, that I didn't say anything. I was kind of like, here's your money, put the groceries in the car, leave me alone. And when you see people do that, it does nothing but anger you. I'm never going to try to pass myself as being some warrior. I'm not. But I did serve in a combat zone. And there are things that happen there.
You get more money? Do you get more money when you go to a combat zone? Just curious.
You do. You get number one. All of your income is tax free. You don't have to pay taxes on it. It's tax free.
When you're only when you're in combat though. When you're doing regular soldiery stuff, you just got to pay it or no?
No. Yeah, when you're a regular soldier, you still have to pay taxes on your base pay. You don't have to pay taxes on. Let's see, you get a housing allowance. You get a food allowance. I don't think you have to pay taxes on those. I'm almost positive. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure. You know, you don't have to pay taxes on those because Social Security is not taken out of those. And those, you know, that can be, you know, $1,000 a month, depending on where you are. Just in, you know, your BAQ and your BAH, your housing allowance and your food allowance. I don't know what it is today. I'm sure it's quite a bit more. But in like special duty pay, you have to pay taxes on that. Like I got special duty when you're on jump status, you get, you know, they call it hazardous duty pay, and then your base pay. But when you are in a combat zone, those are your base pay and your hazardous duty pay are tax-free, and also you get an additional hazardous duty pay of some sort. I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't a ton of money. But I mean, it was like $100, a couple $100. I can't remember what it was.
How's this? I got a buddy of mine. Well, actually, not a buddy. He's a high schooler. He joined the army. He got thrown out. But it's kind of funny because this is back in the '80s. Okay, well, we grew up I grew up in a small country town, so this is back in the '80s. And McDonald's were not in like every gas station, okay, or every street corner. So when your parents took you out to McDonald's, it was a big deal. You know what I mean? Okay,
Right.
it was like for birthday and stuff like that. You didn't eat this crap every day. Well, he goes over there. I forgot what base he was after basic training, but they had a McDonald's on base, so he would just eat there like every day and got really fat. And it was like that Super Size Me where the dude just eat straight McDonald's for like a month. Well, he ate straight McDonald's for like 6 months, and he couldn't get the weight off, so they had to throw him out because he really bulked up there. I just thought that was fun.
Well, that's
Larry
something that they do. That's one of the requirements that they have in the Army is, height and weight standards. If you exceed the height and weight standards, you can't. I mean, that you can't get promoted. You cannot move. You cannot go to any type of schools. It's called flagged. You're flagged until you until you make the height and weight standards. And if you don't,
how are you gonna make the height? Your height is your height, dude. I mean, what are you gonna do? Cut off a couple inches? Wear lifts?
No. You are allowed a certain amount of weight, depending on how tall you are.
I know I'm mocking, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, okay. But and then also, if you do exceed that weight, then they look at the percentage of body fat. There's a way that they measure body fat, your body fat content, and it seems like it was like 20%, 22% body fat was kind of like the norm. If you exceeded that, then you couldn't. Then you were still considered overweight. For women, it was actually substantially higher. I mean, you could be like 30% body, 35%, but the women's body composition is just different than men. So women here don't get all upset at me. But you can get thrown out for that. But this guy, Tim Walz, is the one that by doing, and I'm sure he probably processed people out of his units for not meeting the height and weight standards also. But the one thing
I just can't get over the dude abandoning his soldiers. I mean, that to me would be the ultimate smack in the face. I mean, he liked soldiering when he was in the tough combat zone of Italy, fighting off the pizza monsters and spaghetti monsters. But when it came to actually doing real soldiering, he actually said he was going to go, right? You notice that he was going to go to deployment. And then all of a sudden just drops it. I mean, that to me is just despicable, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I can point out several things that this guy did and said and did that you just don't do as soldiers. So when soldiers call him out for it, I haven't seen him answer any of these questions. I've seen the campaign say that he misspoke or they've changed a couple things like his retirement rank or whatever, on the down low on the website. Okay, fine, they're correcting it now. But when this is what just burns me, is that when you make a career out of telling those lies to people and representing yourself as something that you are not, all he would have had to do was just go, if he would have got, and I've actually thought about this, if he would have gone on that deployment with his unit in 2006, he could have still ran for Congress. He could have ran for Congress and say, look, when I get back, I am going to fulfill my role, but I am doing my duty to my country and my soldiers. That would have given him all kinds of credibility in people's.
Actually, congressmen have done that and they've won.
Yeah. Why didn't he do that?
And once they win, they actually get taken out because they have to serve in Congress. You know what I mean? Because you have to show up. So, but yeah, they have done that. We have had congressmen that have actually deployed Okay, while in Congress. Oh,
Who's
so
that? Who's that Congress lady from Hawaii?
Tulsi Gabbard, she's still in it.
Yeah, she was in the national. She's a pilot, and
Mhm.
she's employed as a pilot. I mean, come on.
Well,
You know,
this man he's just despicable. There was something else I was going to ask you on this whole topic. Oh, do you know? According to I forgot what news agency, on his retirement papers, he actually put Command Sergeant Major as his rank of retiring, even though he knew that wasn't going to wash. In other words, he was hoping it would just kind of go through, but then they bumped him down to just Sergeant Major. In other words, he put it down on his paperwork as he's retiring as Command Sergeant Major,
right?
in the hopes that it would just kind of go through. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay. So I'm trying to think what the retirement paperwork looked like, but I mean, you're going to have your current rank, which would have been if his current rank would have been Command Sergeant Major, and then he can just turn around and say, "Well, I thought that was your current rank, or not the rank that you're going to retire at." So I could see how you could get away with, again, being disingenuous,
I'm sure.
dishonest.
I'm sure if it would have went through and it's just a clerical error, just like somebody just passed it through, you know what I mean? Nobody checked, or the computer malfunction or whatever, and it would have passed through. He wouldn't have turned down the money. He wouldn't have complained. He would have said, "Yeah, see, I retired."
Well, and that's
Right,
another thing about retiring from the National Guard. When you retire, you don't. When I retired, I stopped getting paid from my active duty pay, but the next month I started receiving a retirement check. So I got paid immediately. With the National Guard, when you retire from the National Guard, there's like a point system that determines how much money you get, how many days of active duty, or how many training sessions that you went to, and how many years you served, all that. There's a point system that goes on that. And then that determines the amount of retirement that you're going to get paid, but you don't get paid until you turn, I think it's age 62. You have to wait until you
Okay, that's really helpful. I didn't mean to interrupt, because I'm working on my application to the National Guard. That's what I'm doing. So this is very helpful to hear this kind of information.
Yeah, in order to you can retire after 20 years of service. However, you're just not going to get paid and receive retirement benefits until you turn. I think it's 62. I might be wrong on that, because I was never retired.
Active duty for? How many years did you do active duty for? How many years did you do active duty for?
21. I was in 21. Yeah.
21. Wow.
21. I went in when I was 18 and retired when I was 39.
God bless you.
I wasn't even 40 yet, and I was retired. But the people who retire from the National Guard, like this guy did, he just doesn't receive the retirement pay or the benefits of being a retired soldier. Like, being retired from active duty, you get all kinds of other benefits. For example, retirement pay, you get that immediately. Health care, I get TRICARE. It's called TRICARE. And my premiums for TRICARE, I believe, are like $450, maybe $500 a year. That's a year. That's for me and my wife. And that was for my children, because I still had dependent children at the time, that I had to pay complete, and that's complete coverage. That includes no copays at the hospital or at the doctor's office. I didn't have to, you don't have to pay anything for prescription drugs or anything like that. So it was like free medical for $500 a month. You also get full benefits up on the installation. Like I said, you can go to the commissary, you can still go to the PX, you can still, use all.
Let me tell you, he took me to the PS, and the savings there are phenomenal. For instance, a 6-pack of beer, Bud Light, was only $3, and a pack of smokes of Marlboro Lights was only $5, where normally that would be $6 for the Bud Light and $10 for the pack of smokes. So you're definitely seeing a significant savings there.
Right, and we got to be careful, Rad, because we can't say that somebody with a military ID card purchased those items for somebody that did not have a ID card.
Right.
For their use. So we can't say that that happened.
That never happened. No.
It could technically happen where you could buy somebody a 6-pack of beer and a pack of cigarettes for a lot less.
No, I'm gonna tell you something that I thought was really cool. We was driving around this base, and they were like, they had like a mosque set up. It was totally cool. I don't know if you ever pointed out. They had the where they had the what do you call it, the range or whatever,
right?
Where they had all these obstacles and stuff, and they actually had a mosque that you had to practice carrying and stuff. Well, anyway, what I thought was funny is we were going to a place that was restricted because they weren't there on maneuvers. They were doing a jump or something like that, or they're getting ready to come up. We went into a place that we shouldn't have been, and the MPs drove up, and they were like, "Excuse me," blah, blah, blah. And he pulls out his ID, and the dude just stood there, attention. Yes, Sergeant Major, because you still respect you. I thought that was the coolest thing.
Those training, they have training mock-ups on the back 40, on the back of the installation, out in the training area. Okay, and one of the facilities has a minaret and a building, a small building around it to represent a mosque, and that is when soldiers go in there to clear the village. The religious facility, the mosque, is off limits. So officers, commanders, team leaders, squad leaders, platoon sergeants know that when they go to go into the village, that they can't go into that because of the representation of that. But yeah, and that they built all of these things, you know, because they were back there. I mean, we went into Iraq. I mean, for crying out loud, the installation, we had people in Afghanistan in early October of 2001. So the 101st had built these facilities up to provide training for all of these deployments that the 101st had been on and continues to go on to this day.
They had those Green Beret guys, the two teams of Green Berets in there right away. The horse soldiers. He was riding around on horses.
It's 5th Group. Yep, 5th Legion. I spent a
couple of them never rode a horse a day in their life, and they gave them a rough one.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. Horse Soldiers, I think it's called. Oh, one more benefit you should point out. Do you ever use this? Where you can take a military flight anywhere in the world?
Yeah, military left command. This is absolutely true. That's one of the benefits that you can have as a retired soldier, is that you can, if there is a military craft that is flying from, Dover Air Force Base is a big one out of Delaware, Dover, Delaware. They have the whole fleet of C5s up there. And if you don't know what a C5 is, it's like a flying warehouse. That's what it's like. I mean, it's just absolutely huge. And they have up above, because they have this main deck in there where they store, tanks, aircraft, or whatever, and then they fly the C5, which is absolutely huge overseas. They have a deck above where you can have passengers go, and if there's space available, you fly space available. You can get on the aircraft and fly overseas free of charge. But the key thing is that getting in line and getting on the space that is available it has been difficult the last couple of years because of the ramp up of deployments and such, going to the Middle East, and people not going to, like, Europe is the main place that people want to go. But yeah, you can fly those free of charge. As a matter of fact, my family, when we were stationed in Italy, flew back and forth in Italy several times on space available flights. It didn't cost us a dime.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it is sweet. It's one of those benefits. But a lot of these guys, I remember, and you put into categories. Here's the thing, though. If you are an active duty soldier and you have orders to go someplace, you're put to the front of the line. So, you know if you got orders and you go into one of these places, you're going to the front of the line. if you are a military dependent, meaning that if you are a wife or a son or a daughter of somebody that's on active duty, you're like category 2. You can go. If you are a active duty soldier and you just want to go, then you're like category 2. Military dependents would be category 3. And then if you're stationed in certain areas, that pushes you up to category 2. Anyway, if you're a military guy or a retired guy, you're like category 36 or something like that. You're the last guy to get your butt on that aircraft if there's a seat available.
So you can call them up and say, hey, I want to go to Germany, and then they'll put you on the list, and then they'll call you up and tell you when you can go.
No, you have to be there in person.
Yeah, you can sign up in person, and sometimes there's a line. So sometimes you just go commercial because it's just easier.
Yeah,
so you gotta wait there at the airport, huh?
There were people in Dover. I would sit outside of the terminal in their motor. Oops, I'm sorry, Isa. There we go. They would sit outside. They would have their motorhomes out in the parking lot. They'd be waiting in their motorhomes to get the space of a flight to Europe. And they were you would always know when you need to check the board, because they had this list up there when the flight was supposed to go, and they would have the manifest, and they wouldn't put the names of people, but you always check the manifest to see if you made the manifest, to see if somebody's bumped you, got put in front of you or whatever. And they would be, this is what they did. They just hung out there at the Air Force Base until they got a flight, and then they would get on it and they would go to Europe and be there for a couple weeks, and then they would go to the like Ramstein or wherever in Europe and get on to space available or wait for a space available flight coming back. So it's talking to these people, it's just cool, what they've done, and said, oh yeah, this is like my 6th time going over there. And I said, is it hard getting on? He goes, oh, it depends on the time of year. And I don't know, it's just one of those many benefits that you get.
One more question is, can you go on base and say, hey, I want to jump out of an airplane with you guys? Can they let you do that?
No,
okay.
You have to be, in order to jump out of an airplane, number one, you have to be on jump status, meaning that you have to be in a unit that part of its TONE, it's in that unit, part of its mission must state that it deploys soldiers that are in jump status. You have to be on jump status, meaning that unit has to have positions that if that unit is going to be deployed, you can deploy that unit, fly the soldiers over the country, and then drop them in. That has to be part of the unit's mission. And then you have to be in one of those positions within that unit on active status in order to do that. So no, I just can't go walk into a unit up on Campbell out to the 160 at their 5th group and say, hey guys, you guys want to go jump today? They can't. They couldn't legally. They couldn't do it because the liability issue there, of course.
What about flying around in the helicopters and stuff? No, can't do that.
No, well, you're not supposed. Let's just put it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But occasionally they
get to go for a ride.
You can go for a ride every now and then, but you have to know people, and they have to. There's got to be certain mitigating circumstances that go on with that. But being close to a military installation is a really neat thing. Like in the evening, I can sit on my back porch. Red and I were talking a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, "Can you hear that?" You can hear what?
You hear helicopters, dude.
Yeah, helicopters. Yeah, they're flying up and down the highway all the time. You got whether they're Blackhawks, Apaches, Chinooks, or whatever. They're flying up and down the highway all the time. You can always hear the artillery when our artillery goes off. They go out to the firing range out here.
I remember hearing that. You can hear that.
They have a couple mock villages less than a mile across the highway up on the installation. And when they go out and they do those assaults, you can hear the crew served weapons going off. And I don't know. It just kind of reminds you of where you are and what those guys do. And again, let's going back to this scumbag Walz. What soldiers do is it's a tough life. It really is. And I'm not besmirching his service at all. And plus, in order to make, only 1%, only 1% of the people that go into the Army become a first sergeant. 1%, 1 out of 99 ever become a first sergeant. Less than, I think, 0.5% become sergeant's major, become an E9. So in order to make that rank, you have to be good at what you do. I'm not criticizing his service. What I am criticizing, though, and anybody that's been in the military before would know this. What I am criticizing is what he has said about his service and how he has been disingenuous in representing what he did. If he would have just said, "Hey, I was a battery commander or a battery for DIVARTY, or not DIVARTY, not division artillery, it could have been the division artillery sergeant major, or whatever. Nobody would have said boo about it. But what he's done is he's misrepresented what he did, and that's a cardinal sin.
That's another thing. So he was an artilleryman. I think of artillery as dudes firing big cannons.
Right. Yeah.
So there were no cannons in Italy. So what's he doing in Italy as an artillery division or brigade or what?
This is where there are. Okay, you do. Okay, the 173rd Infantry Battalion. Well, I don't know if they have an artillery splice element with them or not. I know they're going to have mortars.
You got to blow up Luigi's Pizzeria. Come on, man.
It doesn't matter. I know when we deployed to Iraq, and in 2003, 2004, the DIVARTY, Division Artillery, was not using their big guns. Well, initially they were. I take that back. Initially they were, but once we were deployed, and or not deployed, we were deployed. But once we got up to Mosul, they weren't. So what do? Well, they would pull physical security around the perimeter of the installation or the FOB that we were at. And the same thing is true when it going to Italy. They provided security. Just walked around with the M4 or whatever around the not within the installation, but around its perimeter. There's walls that go around the perimeter in Vincenza, around the perimeter of the installation there, to augment the gates where people come in. You have to inspect the vehicles. You have to have a pass, a special ID card, in order to gain entrance into the installation itself. So they might have augmented the MPs there.
So just because you're assigned to a certain division that does a certain task, or brigade or whatever, company, whatever, that does a certain thing like artillery, does not mean that you are going to be doing artillery blowing stuff up with big cannons. Okay? So therefore, hold on, think about this. Just because you go in and you become a cook in the United States Army or National Guard, does not mean that that's what you're going to be doing all the time, is cooking. It could mean that you could also be carrying around a rifle, say, protecting the streets of Minneapolis. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay?
Yeah.
No. A buddy of mine who joined the Marines, he went, actually, it was his culinary school. He's a chef now, from what last I heard, many, many moons ago. But he became a chef, okay? But he learned how to cook in the Army for, a lot of people. And I remember joking, I'm like, dude, you joined the Marines, you're on cooking. He said, every Marine's a rifleman. He was damn serious. No, he was damn serious. He's like, I can pick up this rifle and I can be on the front lines at any time. You know what I mean? Just because you're assigned one task doesn't mean that's all you're going to do. You can be multitask. You can be actually, what you're supposed to be doing is shooting the bad guys, right? You know what I mean?
Well, every soldier is trained to a certain level, whether it's within their basic training. Once you get done with basic training, there's nothing military occupational specific in that. That's just how to be a basic soldier, and that is using a rifle, throwing hand grenades, setting up claymore mines, how to give basic first aid. All these things are part of what every soldier has to learn how to do when they're in basic training. once they get to that to their military occupation, especially whether they're an MP or they are an artilleryman or they're in the infantry, that's where you start learning how to use all of these other types of weapons and weapon systems. For an example, I wouldn't be able to tell you how to fire a 105 howitzer. I have no idea. I've seen them do it, but I have no idea. And just the same, they probably do not know how to use a Mark 19, which is fully automatic grenade launcher, 40 millimeter grenade launcher. So it depends on, which MOS you have, but you all have a basic understanding of how to pull security, how to operate and employ a weapon, levels and uses of this is an important one, levels and uses of force, rules of engagement, certain levels of force. Everybody's trained on all that. And what this guy did by saying that, you're only going to get a 19-year-old cook, like, screw you, pal. I'll show you a 19-year-old cook. He'll kick your ass. You know what I'm saying? You just don't impugn somebody's occupational specialty like that. Here's what they're going after. What's it say? J.D. Vance over. Well, he was only a combat correspondent. Now, okay, number one, he enlisted in the Marine Corps out of high school and served his entire 3-4 years of his enlistment. And then when he got out, he used the GI Bill to go to, I think it was at Ohio State, and then did so well, he was able to get into Yale and advanced himself based on that. But the combat correspondence shtick, they say, oh, what was he, like a reporter? No, gunfighter. This is the guy that took the reporters around, probably worked in the PAO. But notice I say he took them around. Now, taking people around is pretty flippin' complicated in a combat zone, especially to the type of areas that these people wanted to go to and needed to go to in order to report the news. So they need escorts. Well, who's going to escort them? The combat correspondent's going to have to escort them. The guy that knows how to pull security is going to escort. It doesn't matter what your MOS is. You are going to have to stick your neck out on the line to protect these people while you're out doing it.
Oh, that's what he said. They went to some pretty scary situations, some pretty scary areas.
Yeah,
he was not just sitting there in the green zone saying, "Okay, I'm living in Saddam's palace." No, they went out and multiple times. He was only there for 6 months, but still, they went to some very scary situations. And I don't know when he was he there during the surge or before or after? I'd have to look that up. But either way, I mean,
I don't know when he was there. I don't. But when he was called upon, he deployed, served with honor, came home like most people do. That's what he did. He did his job. He wasn't, somebody that,
say, well, I'm going to college soon, so I can't, sorry, I can't go with you guys. I can't play soldier in the war zone. I mean, playing soldier's cool in Italy where we got, pizza and linguine, but we can't go there.
Drinking cappuccino with the Cabernet.
Oh, I was reading. I'm currently reading one of Winston Churchill. Do you guys know that Winston Churchill was a prolific historical writer? Okay. No, he wrote many historical works and personal works. I'm reading his book now. I get the title, but it's about his time in India because he was a cavalryman. He was sent to the Punjab. And he actually writes about how being in the British service was just tea and crumpets and cricket when you served in India. But he wanted action, and he actually did get action. And then he went to South Africa. Do you guys know the story about him in South Africa? Mm-hmm. He went to South Africa as a war correspondent. He gets on a train. This is during the Boer Wars. Okay, he gets on a train with British soldiers, and it gets derailed and attacked, and he gets captured along with several others in Boer territory, 200 miles away from English territory. He escapes with 2 other people. Okay, one of the persons speaks Boer language, whatever the South African language. He only speaks British, proper British, because he is an aristocrat. Okay. But guess what? Oh, and the two guys that he's also skating with also have all the provisions. Well, they get captured, so he's out on his own. He literally makes it back 200 miles in the South Africa to British territory. It's an amazing story. It really is. I'll get you later. You have to read it. I mean, well, listen to it. I'm listening to it on audio. Okay, but it really is, and yeah. But that's how people were back then.
Well, a lot of those guys that we look at in history, we think that they're always just these politicians or whatever. You guys, ever hear of a guy by the name of John Smith and what was the first Jamestown colony? You know what I'm talking about? He was this guy. He was a military guy, and he brings order to this colony, so the colony becomes successful. This is after Roanoke. This is actually 20 years after Roanoke. But they established this colony, and people are starving to death, and things aren't going right. So he comes in and he takes over the colony and gets it into top shape. Well, everybody thinks that he was just like this rich guy that came in there. No, this guy was a badass. If you look at what he did, he was captured. They were fighting Islamic invaders. I can't remember where it was at, but he was captured. Or no, he was a command. He was one of those. You ever see the movie Troy with Brad Pitt and that big gorilla guy? They go out and they fight. They get the two champions and they fight. And Brad Pitt kills this guy. You ever see the movie? What I'm talking? You guys know what I'm talking about, huh?
Oh, Troy. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so they did the same thing with this John Smith guy. He went out and killed 3 of these guys, cut their heads off, and then he ends up getting captured, and he's sold into slavery. And as a slave, he has this collar he has to wear, and his owner or something, one night he ends up killing this man with his bare hands, buries his body underneath a stack of hay, and then steals his horse and rides off for I don't know how many 100 miles and is able to escape all this. So when you start talking about these British guys that did all these hardcore things, there was a time where these guys were pretty tough. I'm not saying that British people aren't tough.
Oh.
I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying these are guys who are real badasses.
It's not just really the British. It was just I mean, if you think about it, then back then we didn't have the internet. We didn't have TV. We didn't have video games growing up as kids. I mean, you were listening in the army right when Atari was coming out, so you didn't have that. You know what I mean? Okay. But no, we have this stuff where it's made our young men lazy, placid minds. Okay. I mean, and if you look at these are Renaissance men, even before the Renaissance. These were, look at John Hamilton. John Hamilton wasn't a rich man. Okay, he was born into abject poverty, and because of
Alexander
Hamilton. Yeah. Okay, but because he had nothing else better to do except to work hard, and he was able to take over what do you call it? In Jamaica, I think it was, right, or the Bahamas. He took over some kind of dock situation. Okay, where he was running the pier. Okay, but went through this, and you take a look at these people from history. Thomas Jefferson, yes, Thomas Jefferson was an aristocrat, British, but what did he do? He invented all kinds of stuff. Wrote the Declaration of Independence. Helped contribute to the Constitution. What a revolutionary! You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Andrew Jackson.
Andrew.
I love Andrew Jackson. I mean,
the best one-time president we ever had. I love the videos of the party he threw at the White House.
Yeah, they tore. Yeah, he couldn't live there for I don't know how many years. They couldn't live there because they tore it up. Yeah, he
was a raging kegger, dude.
He was actually elected 3 times. He was elected in 1824.
I thought it was only one. I thought it was only one time. Oh, well,
in 1824. No. In 1824, this is when John Quincy Adams, and who was the guy? He was a congressman from Kentucky, Henry Clay had the corrupt bargain where Henry Clay arranged for some electoral votes, because John Quincy Adams did not win the electoral college. He did not win a majority of the votes in the electoral college, nor did he win a majority of the votes, the popular votes. Andrew Jackson won the majority, he won the most popular votes and won the most electoral college votes. But since there was 4 people running, nobody won a majority of the electoral college. So therefore, the selection of the president went to Congress. The Constitution says that somebody doesn't win a majority of electoral votes, Congress decides. Well, Congress decided because Henry Clay was promised to be Secretary of State, despite the fact that Andrew Jackson won the most votes, won the most electoral votes.
Really?
They gave it to John Quincy Adams. Yeah.
So I don't remember that. That's interesting.
He would have been president in 1824, but they stole it from. They call it the corrupt bargain. History teacher. I know these things. I have to teach them. Okay, folks, we're going to run out of here tonight. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I know this was kind of a mixed bag of things. I'm going to get a hold of this patriotic Christian guy now that Nico sent me the correct email address, and I'm going to see if we can get him on next Monday to talk about what's going on in England. Pray for that country, folks. Pray for its people. I've seen, I don't know how many video clips, read so many stories this week where, we talk about a 2-tier justice system here in the United States.
2-tier.
It's over there in England. It's terrible the way that they treat their own citizens, because they're a bunch of quislings is what they are. And
a Muslim immigrant who raped a British girl, did 6 months in prison, is out for early release because of overcrowding. However, they just jailed a 62-year-old pensioner, a retiree, because he would not leave a protest or riot or whatever, and he was carrying a sign. They sentenced him to 6 months. Another guy that just shared a Facebook, no, he didn't even share a Facebook post. He just said on a Facebook post, F you bees, to the police, and that got him 20 months in prison, for sharing a Facebook page. They're literally locking up for people who shared a post that misidentified, the person who stabbed these little girls at the Taylor Swift concert, or not concert, but event, I mean, no, what is happening out here? They are actually threatening to extradite American citizens for our Facebook and Twitter posts. They are doing this. And yes, England, yes, the United States and UK has an extradition treaty. So yes, they could possibly, under the Biden or Harris administration, extradite Elon Musk. They are threatened to do that, to put him in jail.
In England?
Yes.
I don't see that happening. But I mean, if it's then again, I thought that there was a lot of things that weren't possible, like, I don't know, raiding an ex-president's home and serving a search warrant on him, pumping up charges for campaign finance fraud. It's a new age, folks. It's a new time. Precedents have been set. Traditions walls have been broken down, and it's getting to the point where almost anything goes. And it's a scary time. So next week, we're going to try to look at what's going on in England. We're going to look at the 2-tier thing. I'm going to see if I can get Dominic Shields on also. Golly, I'm sorry, Dominic. Sorry. See if I can get him on also, and get this patriotic Christian.
Jay's over there too. See if we can get Jay or daughter Christ, because they're over there. They're in the mix of it.
Are they?
They're not.
Know that. I got a.
I'll ask him.
I got a Skype message from Jay today, as a matter of fact. Yeah, evidently I butt dialed him. He says, "Hey, bro, just so I missed a call. Are you okay?" No, sorry. I butt dialed you. Anyway, so again, everybody that came today, appreciate you sharing out, contributing. Everybody that in chat, I know we didn't have a big audience today, and it's kind of a boring thing. But Andrew Tate, I tell you what, guys, I don't know, what a garbage bag.
Well, look, Andrew Tate is being attacked by the Muzz now. It's totally funny. I wish I would have been prepared for this. I could have gone through. I'm looking for the tweets where they are totally attacking Andrew Tate now. All the Dawah gang members, the Muhammad Hijab, the Ali Dawas, all of them. They're all now against Andrew Tate. Actually, Pierce Morgan read out a tweet that Muhammad Hijab attacked Andrew Tate. And Pierce Morgan said, even the Muslims are coming out against you. That's totally funny and hysterical. We need to laugh. But yeah, he's a boss.
Well, I'm sitting there looking at this. It says Andrew Tate faked his conversion to Islam for business. Okay, so he's 36. I thought he was younger than that because he acts like a child. So he's 36. And
Andrew Tate is an attention whore.
Yeah. Okay. So he's a social media influencer. Am I right on this?
Yeah, he evidently, I don't know much about him, but evidently, he actually teaches a class on how to actually, what do you call it? Traffic women. No, I'm not making that up. Okay. Well, he teaches young men, okay, how to basically just pick up girls and have sex with them. I mean, it's pretty much really bad stuff. I mean,
this guy is he's 6'3", 205 pounds. This guy he's a big boy. Let's see here. So he's a kickboxer. So he's 76 and 9. Pretty good. And then mixed martial arts, he was 4 and 2, I guess.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, he's my son's age. I can hear you now, Red. Yeah.
Okay. No, so Andrew Tate, I didn't know much about him. I kind of find it funny. So Andrew Tate was being promoted by the conservative YouTubers, well, not really promoted, but they were quoting him back a couple years ago. The people I listen to, Ben Shapiro, and I don't listen to them anymore. Well, I still listen to Ben, obviously, but what's his name? The dude with the cigars, he's on the Daily Wire. I can't think of his name. Michael Knowles, and a couple, even Candace Owens, which I totally despise now. Ben Shapiro broke her. Ben Shapiro broke Candace Owens. I'm just saying. I mean, I listen to her just to laugh now. But no, they promoted him as, the masculine man, because he actually was telling, Western men are weak, okay? Okay, you're sitting there not getting married, you're not having children, you blah, blah, blah. But unfortunately, they did not realize what this dude was doing. He was offering a class to teach young men on basically how to be a pimp, okay? And how to basically take women and seduce them and make them become his cam. He made his millions off of running a cam sex website of young girls, where he convinced these young girls to go out and do this. And he was teaching a class for, like $19.95 or $300, okay, whatever it was, I don't know, okay, where he would teach men, young men, on how to do this, and basically how to be pimps, digital pimps. And it all came out, and now all of a sudden everybody on the right has distanced themselves from him, and that's when he converted to Islam.
Well, I didn't, maybe I should have done a better job of researching who this guy was and what he was. I knew he was a previous fighter, an MMA fighter. I thought that's how he made his money, because he was so good at it.
Oh, no.
But evidently he's made his millions. He's a millionaire, hundreds of millions. But
off of kind of a porno industry, if you will. But no, he actually he's what brought him to the attention of the right-wing influences, if you will, is when he actually tweeted out to Greta Thunberg. I forgot what it was Greta Thunberg said about him, but he replied to Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg said, all these men with these small penises driving these big SUVs and fancy sports cars. No, it's because they're overcompensating. And he replied to her, here are my cars. And he actually showed a picture of his manlyhood. And he's like, is this good, big enough for you or something like that? I mean, it was really vile. And that just exploded the Twitterverse, okay? And then like 3 days later, he was arrested on pimping charges in Romania. But anyway, no, the dude is not, he is off. He's basically in it for himself, for the money. He will do anything, say anything. And there are some things where he actually says is like, well, yeah, currently a con man will tell you truthful things. You know what I mean? Okay. Yeah. Like I'll give you an example. He was on the Piers Morgan show, and I know you want to leave, but I'm with this. I was trying to find this clip. He was on the Piers Morgan show. Now remember, he's a Muslim, right? Okay, and he is actually supporting the British First movement. He's actually sitting there saying no, and which is common sense. You cannot have all these people from all over the world come into the UK and deny your British people. Okay? You cannot do this. This is wrong. Okay? Yes, this is true. And Piers Morgan has him on, and Piers Morgan's just attacking him for this, calling him all kinds of phobias and stuff like that. And he's like, okay, do you believe that Tommy Robinson, no. He says, do you believe that this is all the riots that are happening now in the UK are being done by Jewish and by Zionists? Okay? Because that's what Mohammed Hijab said. Mohammed Hijab said that all these riots are being done by Zionists. And they're also Piers Morgan was also attacking Tommy Robinson, linking Tommy Robinson to Tate, right? Okay. And so Piers keeps attacking him on this, okay? And finally, actually, this was brilliant. Tate responds, no, but you believe the riots are being done by Zionist puppets because you believe that Tommy Robinson is leading these riots, and Tommy Robinson is a Zionist puppet, as you said previously. Do you understand that? Okay.
No, I don't. We'll have to talk about it because
I'm sorry. I should have been more prepared. I know you got to go, but basically, he turned the tables on. It was brilliant. I just laughed my butt off.
Well, anybody that does the Piers Morgan, I would love to watch that. I can't stand that guy. But anyway, okay. Again, everybody, thank you again for coming, and we will see you next week on the Crossing the Crescent discussion group. Thank you for coming, and God bless you all. Oh, whoa. What am I doing here? Cold close. Where are we? There we are.
Advanced, student, and specialist. That the standard narrative has holes. That's what
that the Muslims were rioting against one another. And as much as we don't want to face the fact, the Muslims were lying sometimes. They were fabricating, they were embellishing, and that might be hard to accept, but that is a reality.
She was 9 years old. She was 9